Okay, this is the writing workshop for the writing contest called what is it called? The writing contest that doesn't exist struggles. So, what is this? We are holding a writing contest right now for our that is associated with our upcoming game, The Lands Remaining. The Lands Remaining is a Carve from Brindlewood dark fantasy game, a really kind of mythic fantasy game. And this particular contest is about struggles, which is what we call the kind of epic boss scale encounters in The Lands Remaining. For this contest, you're being asked to write a struggle. You optionally can write a reward to go with the struggle. That's not required. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to kind of go into struggles a little bit more from a sort of design perspective and kind of structurally and what struggles are. And so that's kind of what we're going to do. We'll kind of go through it, kind of talk about it structurally, bearing in mind that this game is not released yet. It's still strictly speaking in playtest, even though I feel pretty confident in it. And so a lot of what I say might kind of vary in the end. It may not be exactly how it ends up, but I think this will be a pretty solid guideline as far as like what a struggle is and kind of how they should look. There'll be a little bit of me talking, and then we will do a writing exercise. We'll kind of divide up into small groups. We'll do a writing exercise. We'll come back and we'll share whatever we wrote. And then the last part of the workshop will be just questions you might have. If you have specific questions about the struggle that you're writing, if you have just questions about the lands remaining in general that might help you better understand how to approach the contest, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. And so a little bit about me, in case you don't know who I am. My name is Jason Cordova. I am the creator of this game, The Lands Remaining, as well as some of the games from which it is derived, like Brindlewood Bay, The Between, co-creator of the Silt versus role-playing game, Public Access, soon to be on Kickstarter. And so, yeah, this is I like to do these workshops because I think that well, honestly, it kind of helps me refine my own ideas about things too. You know, like while it's really, I know, I presumably it's helpful for all of you. It's also really helpful for me because it helps me to kind of understand how people are thinking about these things, and I try to like take on board that data, I guess, and help kind of refine my own thinking about what I think this game is doing and what it's capable of. There are a couple of assumptions that we're going to operate under here. The first is that you understand Carve from Brindlewood gameplay conventions. So I'm not going to like describe the what the dark move is. I'm not going which is called the night move in the other games. I'm not going to like paint the scene. I'm not going to take time to define that. I'm going to assume you know what those things are. I'm also going to assume that you understand the basics of the lands remaining. It's okay if you don't know all the rules because they're a little in flux, but at a basic level, you just understand like the tone, the vibes, and kind of generally what the premise of the story of the lands remaining is. I do want to start though with a big question of what is a struggle, and I want to focus on that question from a sort of design goal standpoint because I think that will help you understand better what you need to try to achieve with your contest entry. Okay. So, a struggle in the lands remaining is what we call that's the epic boss scale encounters that you have in the game. These are usually combat, but they don't have to be like a combat. They just have to be a big encounter, and that's at least part of the reason why I name them struggles as opposed to boss encounter or boss combat or something like that, right? Struggle is a more like general word that can kind of encompass lots of different things. Most of the ones that I've written are combats, so with big monsters, but they don't have to be. I think there's a type of struggle that is maybe like more of a social encounter. There's a type of struggle that is maybe more of like a series of obstacles or like a really particularly big obstacle that you have to overcome as opposed to like a melee, right? But generally speaking, they are big combats. I had some design goals with this. Probably the main design goal is focused on the fact that this game is inspired quite a lot by video games, in particular the Soulsborne or Souls-like video games, such as Dark Souls, Elden Ring, really particularly Elden Ring, Sekiro, games like that. And one of the features of those games is you have these big boss encounters, right? And these big boss encounters are very much like presented like these big set pieces, right? Like Your character usually walks through a fog gate, and once you walk through the fog gate, you're locked in. Like you can't turn back. You are there facing this Titanic monster, and these big like Titanic monster encounters are a big highlight feature of these games, right? Now, I am of the impression that other tabletop role playing games that have attempted to emulate this style of boss encounter, I think they go about it the wrong way, personally. I think that the focus tends to be on like just hacking and slashing, number crunching, stats, weapons, hit points. And that's fine if you're playing a board game, I guess. But from my perspective, I want to be telling the story, right? And so one of my big goals here was how do we make these encounters feel epic? How do we make them feel really high stakes while still preserving them as a storytelling exercise and making them more narrative in focus? And in particular, how do we make it feel very carved from Brindlewood, right? These were some big goals I had to sort of sort out in my head. And indeed, I didn't even start really writing the game in earnest until I, in my mind at least, had sorted out what I thought that looked like. And so, what I ended up on is this structure that allows you to, I would say, tell the story of the combat as opposed to simulating the combat. This is a really important distinction that I think is going to help you write your entry because we're not trying to, we're not necessarily trying to like simulate the encounter as much as we're trying to tell the story of the encounter, the dramatic moments of that encounter. That's the focus, right? Of the people on the call, I know for sure Jazzy has played the game. Jazzy, has that been your experience that it feels more like a story as opposed to like a big like kind of epic, like, or as opposed to like a number crunchy or a fight or a simulation?
Yeah, I think it's always felt very much like you're hitting the narrative beats of the combat, like less
Mhm.
so than I guess in like video game terms, it kind of feels like we're only talking about when we're hitting like a next stage,
Right.
like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you've done enough damage that you have that moment where, what's her name? Melania, like
Yeah.
sits down and goes
Transforms.
like,
Yeah.
wait, and
Yeah. Yeah.
transforms,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not the everything in between we kind of do in one role, right? So it's very much like that narrative,
Yeah.
the narrative beats of a combat.
Well, and also I think what's really important here, and we'll get to this more when I talk about the structure, but another thing that like I think is underappreciated in these video games is those boss encounters often have like a really strong pathos element to them, right? So often those boss encounters are preceded with like a little cutscene where as soon as you walk through the fog gate, you see the monster in some like weaker form and it like gives a little speech about like the blood or the moon or whatever the hell the game is about, and like and talks about like its horrible feelings and its horrible past, and often this doesn't make any sense at all, like it's just like the creature monologuing. And then it's sort of like the fight happens, and then often after you kill the thing there's like it gives out this like plaintive cry of sadness or whatever. There's this like pathos element, and so I also wanted to kind of capture that part of it too. So that's kind of the idea. There's also I think that like the focus is very much like on kind of emulating this sort of type of video gamey kind of encounter. I actually think that that's just one frame of understanding this. I actually think that like I really think that lots of role playing games that have boss battles or like big monster encounters as part of their gameplay would benefit from something like this. Like I really think there's just something to be said about like structuring an encounter this way. So let's get to that structure. I will say, big picture, the it's a funnel, so it's really wide at the top. The first part of it is a lot of text, a lot of stuff, a lot of reading, a lot of action, a lot of dice rolls, and every successive step it funnels down to a point, right? And so that first part, we call them, it's divided up in, each one is divided up into four movements. That first movement I call the AoE attack movement. AoE stands for area of effect. That's video game terminology. The idea here is, so this is the longest movement. Like in terms of the writing, you will be, the bulk of your writing will be in the first movement. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to you're trying to like paint a really vivid picture for the keeper when they get ready to run it, and also for the players eventually when the keeper reads it. The idea is that the embers show up on site. They walk through the fog gate, if you will. They show up at the site of the combat or the encounter, and this is what they see. This is what they experience, and then the monster shows up, and then the monster does a an attack that hits all of them. And importantly, the embers are just trying to survive that attack. Now, this is set in stone. The structure is pretty malleable, especially in movements 2 and 3, but not in movement 1. Movement 1 is always the same. It is this introduction, there's a paint the scene, it's this like descriptive bit, and then there's this area of effect attack that every ember rolls the dark move for. Okay. That is that's just the way it is. That's the rule of the game. And so now it doesn't now you still have a lot of creativity and flexibility available to you there, because the area of effect attack can be any number of things, right? Like it could be, in the case of the Putrescent Queen, she hits you with a wave of, I was I always jokingly call it sad swamp water, but she hits you with this wave of sadness, right? Uh, in the case of Chevalier Scarabin, you are attacked by a number of knights riding beetles, right? They just surround you, and you have to fight off these knights. There's one, the stillborn Gestalt Knight, is basically like a big guy in a mech suit of dead baby dragons, and the initial assault is all about like he's just hurling dead baby dragons at you that like are like zombie dead baby dragons, and you got to survive that, right? It can be more of a psychic thing, right? There's all kinds of ways you can frame up fictionally like what this attack is, right? The important thing is everyone rolls a dark move. That's the key part of it, right? You can imagine if you were doing more of like a social encounter, where it's like maybe the embers are facing some kind of like cosmic justice or something, maybe that initial assault in quotes is them having to like plead their case before this god or something, right? Like you can imagine all kinds of different scenarios. The key is though, everybody rolls a dark move. There's this big area of effect attack, and maybe most importantly, you have to frame up that question that you pose to the embers right before the dark move. You have to frame it up so that the embers can't do any more than just survive that attack. That's the most they can do. They can't get close to the monster. They can't attack the monster in any meaningful way. It is just survival, whatever that means in the context of your fiction. So yeah, the structure is very set in stone in the first movement. You always want to have that paint the scene question. I like to put it before the monster actually arrives. Like basically the embers arrive, we describe the environment a little bit, we do a paint the scene question to help flesh out the environment and to give the players a chance to put their spin on things. And then you have the monster arrive, and then you do that big area of effect attack and then you prompt the players to describe how they try to survive it, and then you do the dark move. It's I've now, in my playtesting and in my running games for the Bad Spot, I've run 12 struggles at this point. And it works great. I've run several of the struggles, I've run multiple times, and this feels like a really prescriptive process. And I actually was like worried it was going to be like too prescriptive, but it's always been very different. Like it's always been really, really different in play. And the reason why is because the dark move truly, like the dark moves that fire off, that's where all the creativity is happening at the table. The players can say and react and show anything they want, right? They roll the move, maybe they get killed, maybe they don't get killed, maybe they have to stoke the old fire to stay alive, maybe they have to get their aspects involved, maybe the Nameless is there and the fucking Spectral Knights have to run in and help the group. Like there's all kinds of things that happen in those dark moves, right? So even though it seems a little prescriptive because the keeper is just reading a script, it's in play. It doesn't feel that way. The text part just feels like a setup, right? But it's a very, very it's a hard framed setup, right? Like yes, you can do a lot of role play inside the dark move structure, but ultimately you can't go beyond surviving that assault. That's the most you can accomplish, right? So that's the first movement. I think it's probably for contest purposes, it's the one you have to get right because it's the anchor, right? Like I know how they should be. I know that like they should always end in this certain way. There's like really easily identifiable structure here, right? So just make sure you kind of nail that. The second movement and the third movement, you have a lot more freedom here. I have some general thoughts about what I think the second and third movement are and kind of how they what they function as in the story, but you can do a lot of different things here. Indeed, I've written about I don't know about a dozen of these, and I really play with movement 2 and movement 3 in terms of like the types of things that go on in those two movements. The second movement I broadly speaking call the melee movement. It is also pretty lengthy in terms of your word count, but it's not as lengthy as the first movement, but it's still pretty lengthy. You have a lot more freedom in terms of what happens. Just remember that you have to kind of pace yourself here because you've got two more movements to get through. So whatever happens in the second movement, it can't end in the death of the monster. Okay, it has to be you got like two more movements after this. So you have to kind of like in terms of the storytelling, you have to kind of pace yourself a bit. So I usually like for this to be the melee scene. The Embers have survived that initial assault. They've survived that initial assault, and now they're able to get a little closer to the monster and engage in some hacking and slashing, or the equivalent of hacking and slashing in your encounter. So if we're talking about a big monster and it's a fight, then it's probably like very literal melee, right? But going back to like the more social type encounter, maybe it's verbal riposts or whatever, or maybe you're like in a big cosmic divine courtroom and you have to like make your arguments in movement 2, right, to the judge. Like there's you kind of interpret melee however you want, but the point is the characters have gotten a little closer, they've survived the initial assault, and now they're kind of engaging in the back and forth with the monster, right? The real tricky thing here, I don't know if it's tricky, I think it's fun to think about, but the real tricky thing you want is like what is the actual mechanical implications here, right? Like, are there going to be die rolls? If so, who's rolling dice? How many die rolls? How many embers are getting involved here? It's wide open. There's no correct answer here. You have a lot of freedom. I would say there's infinite ways of approaching it. For contest purposes, you'll be judged quite a lot on the creativity and playability of your amber prompts in movements 2 and 3, because this is your space to really kind of make it your own, right? Don't overthink it, right? Like if it's just a big combat, then just, I love a kind of like everybody in round robin just describe the melee, right? Just describe your part in it, and maybe one person does a die roll, maybe no die roll happens, maybe it's a big struggle and they all do another die roll. That's fine too, right? It's use your judgment and kind of think about scope and scale and kind of what seems fun. The thing is like I don't have like a perfect answer here, but my sense is that the more die rolls in the second movement means that the struggle is harder as compared to other struggles. I don't I think that's kind of like objectively true, but I'm not sure that's necessarily like what you need to do in order to make it feel harder, if that makes sense. Because you can have the encounter feel really difficult without having a bunch of die rolls. You can just have the players describe what their ember does, and it still kind of feels really epic, right? So you have to kind of use your judgment. There are different ways of determining who rolls dice if dice are getting rolled, right? Maybe there's like something from the first round of die rolls. So the ember who rolls is whoever rolled lowest. They're very vulnerable, so they're going to have to do the movement 2 die roll. Or maybe you set it up so that whoever rolled highest in the first movement does the die roll in the second movement. Maybe there's a special condition that someone gets at the beginning of the combat, and whoever has that condition has to do the die roll. Maybe it's related to the number of cinders you have marked. Maybe it's related to whoever has the most fire to come marked. Maybe it's just keeper decision, keeper fiat. There's so many different ways to do it, and this is one of the things you'll be judged on, is like how you kind of weigh that and and get creative with it. If you try to get really creative with it, make sure it makes sense because like it has to still be playable, right? So it's okay if it's a simple setup too. The important thing overall is that this second movement always ends in a draw. Like the embers are not any closer to defeating the monster, and the monster's not any closer to defeating them. It's a draw, right? The third movement is when it starts to really, really focus in. That's a very, very short movement. Textually, it's a few sentences usually, if even that. And then you have the weak spot. This is usually directed to one ember. The ember is asked to describe how like exploit the weak spot, discover the weak spot, and bring the creature to its knees, right? Now, just like in movement two, the choice of which ember does that, there's infinite possibilities. You can frame it up however you want. But I think it's best so long as one ember is the one who does the weak spot. You can also see a situation where it's kind of like two people do it. It'll just depend on how you kind of frame it. But I could easily envision a situation where like two people have to make a die roll or something, or and depending on how they do, maybe it affects the final die roll in movement four. The sky's the limit, but the idea here is in the third movement, it's the weak point, right? We get the creature to its knees, and now we're ready to deliver the killing blow. The fourth movement is the killing blow, still pretty short textually speaking. Here again, we kind of return to a more set structure. The fourth movement is not set in stone like the first movement is, but it is, so far, in all the ones that we've published, or not published yet, but have written, there's a pretty dependable structure here, which is the creature is vulnerable. You're going to strike the killing blow or the killing blow, whatever that means. And one ember does it. There's a paint the scene question that explores what the monster was like during the time of the old fire. That's the pathos element, right? We get to see, oh, this creature wasn't always evil. It wasn't always a monster. It used to be just this guy, and he was maybe pretty good. We get a flashback to see what they were like. And then you do the light move to actually defeat the creature, right? To strike the killing blow. In practice, the way this goes is, so you have this big attack that you got to survive, a lot of die rolls, probably some marking of the fires, lots of aspects getting marked, and then you get into, this like melee, this back and forth. Again, it's like this, it's a struggle, you're striving, you do this desperate action to expose the weak point of the monster. The monster is vulnerable. And now we get to tell a little story about how the monster's not so bad, actually. Like there's more, there's something here that we missed. There's something that we're being reminded of. That's one of the game's major themes, right? There was a time before, and now there's now, And so then we do the light move, and the way it usually goes is it's the ember rolling the light move, kind of now struggling with how they should deal with the monster. Should they go ahead and just strike a merciless killing blow? Should they maybe try to find a way to allow the creature to have peace? Should they try to release the creature from whatever dimning thrall they're in that's causing them to be that way? That tends to be how they wrap up. And often it's just strike a killing blow, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a more like emotional thing, right? As an example, in my playtest yesterday, we did the Putrescent Queen struggle, and in that one's attached to a mystery, so it has a lot of like preamble before you actually get to it, right? Which is the whole mystery you have to do. And in that mystery, you're trying to figure out why, what is the story of the Putrescent Queen's lost love, and then you basically use that story to trick her to get close to her, and then end her, right? Well, what my group determined was, they came up with their story, and they determined that there was this poem that was like a component of the story, right? And so they used that poem to like get past her defenses and to get close enough. And then when the time came to actually like destroy her, they decided not to destroy her. They decided to basically give her rest, and they allowed her to kind of like have peaceful rest in this like kind of altar of rose petals, and that kind of helped cleanse the land, right? It was this very like sweet, almost like romantic, tragic but romantic ending, and so that's sort of that's something you can do here, right? You can kind of have this like emotional element. It's also okay if it's just a big, nasty, fucking disgusting monster that you have to kill at the end. That's also fine, you know. But I do think that you want that kind of like that paint the scene in the fourth movement where you kind of like show another side to things. I think is really important. I think it's not required, but I think it's really important. I think you should explore it. So that is the basic structure of the actual encounter itself. And then there's rewards. Now, for contest purposes, you don't have to write a reward. We're not requiring that. If you do, it will help your entry stand out, and so you might consider doing it. If you write one, we will judge it also, so make sure it's mechanically sound and well written. You can do all kinds of things for rewards. It could be a piece of equipment, it could be a brand new move, it can give you a clue, it can give you a lord clue, it might unlock a new shrine of remembrance, it might unlock a journey. There's the sky's the limit. A supplicant, there could be so many different things that the rewards are. Obviously, you have to stick within your word count for for contest purposes. But if you're watching this because you're just writing struggles for fun, or you're writing a mystery and you want like an associated struggle, the sky's the limit again on the rewards. Any game element can be a thing that's unlocked if it makes sense for the struggle. And so that's the sum of my comments here and what I wanted to kind of say about this. Before we get into the writing workshop or the actual writing part of this, does anyone have any questions about any of that?
I have one question. Given that we are making these struggles in sort of the context of they can be put anywhere, right? Like they can potentially be used as a heart reaction. I've been struggling, pun intended, with sort of the like how do we get there, right? Like I have the description, but depending on like where you are, it might not make sense to suddenly be like, oh, here's a giant lake and there's a lady in
I
it,
would say
right?
don't. I would
Like,
say don't worry about
yeah.
it. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
For struggle purposes, don't worry about how the embers get there. That's the keeper's job. So you just write it as if they got there, and then let the keeper and the playgroup worry about how it actually happens. It's a good question, but it actually, I think it's that is in isolation of like the keeper making decisions. Like the keeper will make whatever decisions they're going to make. I will say one thing I did for the bad spot group is I've added like this new kind of like it's a new rule, I guess, essentially, where basically the bad spot group, I revealed the existence of a struggle to them that's not connected to a mystery. And it was Gilvin the Vine Twined, one of the freelancers struggles. I can't remember who wrote it, but Gilvin the Vine Twined. I introduced it just as a sort of like as a little role playing moment, and I taught had the character talk about it. And then what I did was I said, okay, you can take a journey to go encounter Gilvin the Vine Twined whenever you want and collect the reward from Gilvin the Vine Twined, right? So now you have this struggle in addition to the mysteries that you can journey to. And so that's one way as a keeper that I would set it up. But in terms of like writing the struggle, just assume the embers got there, and like does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess like you should like start writing sort of like the inciting incident. Like whatever happens is what's going to cause the monster
They
or
enter
the
the
creature or
sacred
whatever. Yeah.
grove, they walk through the gate, they enter the castle, they do whatever the thing is that like it's usually like them moving into a place.
Hmm.
Or it could be like I think for Tristel, the three-tailed comet, it just happens. Like they're just suddenly in it because that's a big like kind of interdimensional thing, so it can just like appear.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about how the characters get there. Just assume that the keeper will sort that out. Yeah.
All right.
Ennis, go ahead.
Yeah, so is there somewhere that we can see struggles that already exist? I really love reading examples of a thing to get the rhythm of it and see what existing ones do.
There's a folder on the contest page that has a bunch in there. So if you go to the contest page, there's a resources folder, and inside that resources folder there are oh yeah, if you go to the resources folder, it's basically just the draft of the game so far. So if you go
Oh,
if you go in there, and in particular if you click on the elegy portion, and then go to, let's see, probably the elegy mystery is going to be like where there's going to be several there. I also thought we had just some like, I thought there were just more like standalone examples, but maybe there's not. Um, in any case, if people will, there's like a million examples floating around. But yeah, the folder of like if you go to the elegy mystery inside the folder, kind of drill down till you get there. There's like three. There's like three struggles just on that one mystery: the pallbearer, the boatman, and the the grave gestalt. And then there's a. I think I shared the Moldering Court mystery somewhere. Let me see here. Maybe I didn't. Let's see. Oh, yeah. If you, in that same folder, if you go to the Great Forest, there's a mystery called the Moldering Court, and the Moldering Court has two more examples of struggles. So, and then the journeys, in the journeys, there's a struggle as well. If you kind of scroll through there, so they're kind of peppered throughout all these documents. You can recognize them because they have like they're divided up into these like four textual sections that are divided up with Roman numerals 1 through 4. So.
awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions before we go to the writing portion? All right. So let's go ahead and go to the writing part of this. I am going to send a second PDF here. I will drop this into the Discord channel for everyone. Okay, first things first, let's divide up into groups. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people. So probably we're going to have, if we divide that up into, I'd like to get 4 groups if possible out of that. So let's do Sean and Jazzy, you're in one group. Um, Ennis and Aaron, you're in another group. You're group 2. So Jazzy and Sean, you're group 1. Ennis and Aaron, you're group 2. Michael and Chaotic, you're group 3. Uh, Ryland and Chris, you're group 4. Robin, you're in group 1. Jerome, you're in group 2. Dragon, you're in group 3. So that is the the group
Hey,
assignments.
I can't join because I have book cover to
Okay, no
finish.
worries.
So
Yeah,
I'm just here for the listening part.
that's fine. That's okay. If you're in a group, go on Discord, organize your discussion however you want. You can do a Discord voice channel or just a chat channel. I'll leave that up to you guys. But take a look at the document. The groups, you're going to be essentially not writing a whole struggle. You don't have time for that, but you're going to give me the big parts of it, right? Group 1, you're going to be working on a colossal humanoid beehive. Group 2, you are working on an animated tower or castle. Group 3, you have shipboard kraken fight. And group 4, colossal brain in jar. Those are the uh, those are the struggles. For each group, you need to give it a name. For your first movement, you don't have to write the whole thing. You don't have time to write the whole thing, but just generally, what's the setup? What does it look like when the embers arrive? Do write a paint the scene question. And then generally, what does it look like when the monster arrives? And then do write the area of effect attack, the question that's posed to all embers plus dark move. For the second movement, you're going to transition to melee, or in quotes, melee. What does that look like? Once again, if the question is posed, are there die rolls? If so, say how that works. Third movement, finding the weak spot. Once again, the question posed, is there a die roll? And then the fourth movement, you're going to set up the killing blow or the quote killing blow. Paint the scene question. I really want you to go in on the pathos here. Come up with a paint the scene question that kind of adds an emotional component to this. And then the killing blow question with a light move. I would also like for you to write one reward. You can keep it simple. Just an equipment piece is fine. If you want to get really creative, you can write a move or something. But one reward would be fantastic. You have, from this point on, you have 40 minutes. So we will meet back up at 20 after. We will share everything you've written. It's okay if you don't get to all of it. Just try to hit the highlights and see if you can be kind of creative with it. That's the idea here. We'll share, and then after we share, we'll do like last minute questions that people might have. So if you are if you find that you don't have a group when you get to Discord because some people can't do it, just go join another group or try to get somebody to join your group. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't all come together. I just want you guys to have some practice writing these things and thinking about them. So I will see you at 20 after. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and resume. Yeah, so what I want to do is just go through each group, and if someone from that group could just walk me through the name and the different movements, and then and your reward, if you got to the reward part, and I'll interject as you go, just with thoughts and questions, and then if anybody else has any thoughts they want to share or questions, by all means jump in. We're going to begin with group one, which is, if I remember correctly, that is Colossal Humanoid Beehive. Who wants to walk us through that one?
Yeah, I can start us off. So we did get quite a bit of writing done actually. So I don't know if you want all of it. I guess we'll post it so people can read it. But it starts with you stand in this hollow grove of like empty beehives. We're really painting this picture of it was once very lively, but now like most of them stand abandoned, except one that's in the hive of the shape of a human that's like crumpled over in pain. It's kind of almost like a bee mech suit is the vibe that we're going for. So you have like this factory vibe as you go in. Um, the paint to scene is how can you tell the surviving bees are desperate to protect something, having banded together in this particular form? And then we sort of there's a theme of buzzing, of humming that intensifies, and then the AOE is describe how you would stand the onslaught of stings and clear the buzzing from your mind, and you have to roll the dark move.
Awesome, I love it. So this is like it's like the beehive is just like a central place as a
Yeah, so
uh,
it's almost like it's a city or a town that's like just like
oh, I
old
see. Yeah,
beehives, like just completely
got it.
like you're
Okay.
surrounded.
Yeah,
And
I
then
like
the
it.
only one that still has bees in it is this like crumpled over like human form.
Okay, good. All right, awesome. I love it. All right. Movement two.
Movement two is the humming fills your minds as venom fills your vein. It burns, and yet you suddenly feel connected. You hear it now. This is not the angry war cry of slaughter, but the helpless plea of the desperate. If you open your mind, you can give them what they want, sustenance for their dying queen. And then the
Mm.
paint to scene is how can you tell the bees are attracted to the old fire that still burns within you?
Oh, interesting.
You describe how you open your mind to the beehive without being overwhelmed, and you roll the light move.
Oh, interesting. So wait, so does everyone do that or just one ember?
For now, like this is everyone. Like everyone is kind of like trying to test out what they
Okay.
can do with the beehive. But then in the next movement, um, in the next one, it's this ember that has the most cinders marked. So the next one is the creature's chests burst open. A dying queen lies motionless in its cavity. Dried up honey embraces her like rips embrace a heart. And then to the ember who has the most cinders marked, describe how you trick the creature into letting you reach the queen.
Mm,
Roll the light move or lean into one of your cinders at a personal cost. Take the
mm,
condition the last queen, but succeed as if you had rolled on as if on a 12 plus.
mm.
So the idea is here that they're attacking the embers because they want to feed the old fire to the queen in
Yeah,
hopes of like her not dying.
yeah,
And if you have the most in their marks, like the fire is strongest in you, or it's like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
most attracted to
Oh,
you, is
okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good.
the
Yeah.
idea.
I'm curious about like why you chose light moves instead of the dark move.
I think for me at least it was mostly because I we kind of wanted to sell that these creatures are desperate. They're like not necessarily trying
But
to
they're not
kill
necessarily
you. They're
hostile.
like
Got it. Okay.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
like
yeah,
protecting their queen. They're like
yeah.
trying to feed her, but like your death isn't their main goal
Got it. Okay, I like
necessarily.
that. I think that's a good framing for there. That makes sense to me. Yeah, that's good.
And then the last movement is the queen lies sickly before you. The fire within her will die soon. A suffering that has gone too long can be amended. A spark can be reignited. The
Hmm.
painted scene is how can we tell that killing the queen will erase the last of the beehive from existence?
Oh,
And here you basically have to make a choice. You can kill the queen, roll the light move, just kill her.
yeah.
It's done. Or you can feed her an old fire. You can feed her the fire that they were trying to get from
Oh,
you
that's good.
by
Yeah.
marking an old fire, and then
Oh,
she
interesting. Oh, good.
revived.
Oh, that's really okay. So you get a choice. It's like you do
Yeah.
this or that. Oh, good. That's interesting. Oh, I like that. That's really good. I like the idea of like marking a like stoking the fire to like symbolically represent giving them this fire of life. That's really smart. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and then our reward as well is basically dependent on what you do. So
Okay.
if you kill her, you get to take some honey because that's all that's left.
Sure, yeah.
Uh, it's special honey. It has the aspects of restoring youth, and you can like smear it over you to get armor.
Oh.
Are the aspects. But if you don't, if you revive her, you can ask the beast to come fight for you a
Oh,
few
okay.
times.
Oh, okay, good.
So
I
you
like
can
it.
basically like, as if you're like sort of the new queen and you can have the bee mecha suit
Yeah.
around you and then fight people.
I love it. That's great. Okay, cool. If anyone has any questions or comments, please jump in. But the one I want to know is, were there any? I mean, I know you only had 40 minutes, but like, I'm curious, like, were there any, like, apart from the time restriction, were there any interesting challenges or thought processes when you were approaching Humanoid Beehive?
I'm gonna be really honest. I kind of missed that it was humanoid for like up until the last 10 minutes. So the humanoid part wasn't the big issue because we kind of fixed that in the end. I think I'll let the others speak as well, but for me, I think it was like two and three. Like, when are we gonna have the person like trick the beehive, and like when, like sort of how and when should I do that? I was a little because I originally wrote that in two, and I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably too soon. We need to move that to
Mm.
three. But then, like, what do you do in
What are you doing
two?
too? Yeah.
Yeah, two and three was like a little bit like I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they are like as smoothly rolling into each other as I would like.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the trickiest part of writing them. Like, I always like really enjoy writing the first movement. Like the first movement's really fun because I like to write and I like to have very poetic prose and I like to paint a vivid scene. I love writing paint the scene questions. Then you get to the second and third movement. It's like, okay, now I have to like focus down and I have to pace this out a little bit and I've got to hard frame the shit out of these questions to make sure that the embers can't go too far afield. Yeah, it's really tricky. Good. I really loved it. Anybody have any comments or thoughts on this one? All right. Oh, Rylan, were you speaking? It looks like you're talking, but I can't hear you. No, if you're speaking, I can't hear you. All right, well, let's keep going. I don't know if anybody was trying to talk there, but okay, so the second one, second group, let's see. You have animated tower or castle, kind of the same thing, I guess, but if it's a tower, I suppose it has a different like kind of vertical scope, maybe. Who wants to go ahead and walk me through that one?
Um, so it was Aaron and myself
Okay,
who wrote this. Um, so we landed on the clock tower of Athenaeum. I'm gonna
good
say
name.
that's the name.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about Howl's Moving Castle, and then we talked about Elden Ring, the mechanical beings in Elden Ring, and a clock tower sounded like a cool thing, so we went with that. Aaron, feel free to jump in if you want. I don't want to be the only person talking if you feel like talking, but um, for the first movement, the Embers enter the town of Athenaeum, which has been mostly destroyed through the Dimning. Um, they see that it used to be a fairly resplendent town, but now it's mostly ruins. But there's this constant low grinding hum that seems to resonate around. The first paint the scene is what signs can be found that this town once thrived thanks to mechanical clockwork beings that were common sight within its walls. And then they see the tower at its center. It's tilted to one side. It's built of stone, steel, gears, and chains. And that's when the ground begins to shake as the tower kind of lifts itself and its mechanical legs rise from beneath the cobblestones. And the first move that the Ambers have to do is essentially avoid the collapse of buildings around you, the stone falling, the ground opening up. It's just a dark move to try to dodge or shield themselves.
What I like
We
about
kept it
that
pretty simple.
what I like about that a lot is that like when you have the setup like of like, oh, we're walking into this like town, well, what's to prevent them all from just hiding or running out of the town, or like or avoiding the clock tower, right?
Yeah.
But then the way you set it up though, the way you frame it is the clock tower is like, and like when it animates, it like destroys everything, right? Like everything is destroyed and collapsing around you, and that's why you're forced into the struggle. So yeah, that's really good.
Um, Second movement. Uh, this one is the action piece, I'm going to say. As the tower kind of begins to, and so we were kind of bouncing around the idea of is it moving towards them or is it starting to kind of dance, sort of not dance, but like it's got a rhythm to it. It's kind of moving. Um, its doors open and an army of mechanical clockwork beings kind of spill out of its doors. And so now the idea is the Ambers have to essentially fight their way through these clockworks to get to the actual tower. So the move there is the Ember rolled the highest in the first movement. You must buy time for the others to make their way through the maelstrom of machinery and into the doorway to the clockwork tower. Describe how you do so, and then roll the dark move. So again, keeping it pretty simple on the moves. 40 minutes,
I think that's
Um,
I think that's just a good move in general. I mean, like there's a balance between like in the for contest purposes, there's a balance between playability and creativity, right? And I know that the other two judges judge more on creativity. I judge on playability, so know this
cool.
when you're writing putting your piece together. So sometimes I'm always much more like I'm personally more inclined to like a simple setup that I know works. But that said, obviously you want your entry to stand out, and so it's coming up with like a cool angle is also good. Yeah.
Aaron, do you want to talk about this one? Because this is where you kind
Yeah.
of switch gears, and
Well, we
it's
were switching gears, so to speak. We were trying to find, we were playing with the idea of the clock tower and the sort of the shock of this mechanical entity pulling itself out of the ground and kind of being this macro organism. But we also really wanted to play with clocks and time. And so we started thinking about, well, what if this ascent into the clock tower is sort of following a record of a change that has happened. I'm not totally sure that we nailed it, but what we have here is that in the third movement, there's no combat or moves here, but as you ascend along the stairs inside this still kind of shaking and stomping clock tower, um, you perceive that there are objects mounted on the walls and racks and hooks, these inventions, all manner of inventions that were once created to ease the difficulties of life or spark joy with their creativity. You can see that they've been disassembled and reassembled to turn them into instruments of survival or war or competition as society began to collapse. And so we're starting to see that pathos come out where the inventions, this is clearly the clock tower of a great inventor, but you see that what was originally intended as a way of making people's lives better sort of becomes closed in on the need for survival.
I really
So
like
there's
that.
a scene here.
Oh no, sorry. I
Oh yeah,
really
go
like
ahead.
that. I was hoping we would get that. Like we would get this like like one of the reasons why I made one of the prompts a tower or a castle is because I wanted to like convey the idea that the melee or the sort of like, you know, finding the weak spot or whatever doesn't have to be like a combat. It can be like a traversal. It can be, you know, it can be a climb. And so yeah, I like what you've done there. That's really cool.
So the paint the scene here is to describe an invention that you pass and to describe how, you know, what problem was it originally meant to overcome, and then how has it been redesigned as, you know, a dangerous and unsettling instrument of survival as you make your way up towards the center. And then move forward, we have here as the top of the clock tower, where the creator, whoever this person once was, we find him now just a corpse. He's no longer alive. He has plugged himself into the tower and essentially sacrificed himself in a final effort to somehow empower the tower as a fortress or something like this. I think we could fine tune the language in getting the story across. But you know, I think we want to see how this is a benevolent, ambitious creator who had to compromise his good intentions in a futile attempt to stop the dimning. And ultimately, the embers have to disconnect him. I mean, now he's a corpse, but we're sort of thinking like his body is like you know, when you plug two things into a potato
It's
and
attached to, yeah.
yeah, right, where you have
He's a
ton of
potato.
exactly. So they have to disconnect him to stop the tower from its rampage.
And we
But
have a paint the scene here, and the paint the scene is describing how the creator further and further compromised his good intentions in his designs in a futile attempt to stop the dimning. So that's where we try to show this person who was trying to build good, and then little by little, in an attempt to stop what's happening, just compromises his values until at the end of the day, you know, he's got nothing left and he just sacrifices himself.
except the tower, and the tower then becomes
Yeah.
this fortress. Do you want to, Jerome? Do you want to talk about the reward that he came up with here?
Yeah, I mean, the reward is, I looked at your
ties right
paint the
back into
scene and I was like, man, that's a good paint the scene with the inventions as you pass. Let's make that the reward.
Yeah, you get an
So the
invention, right?
reward,
Yeah, that's like
the reward is
yeah,
you get
good.
a relic,
Right back
and
out.
it's the invention. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the Matt Risby's old gore. It's like a big giant pig that's got a bunch of weapons stuck
Right.
in its back.
Weapon.
It's a similar thing too. Like you describe one of the weapons in the second movement, and then in the reward you get one that you described, which is pretty fun. Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's a super cool struggle. I like I like all the storytelling in it, and I wanted to do that as an example just to kind of show like how these are not necessarily just like melees, right? Like they can be like almost more like a little tiny like a not dungeon crawl, but like a little small like kind of escape, you know, kind of situation, or like, you know, a climb. That's really 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 fun. All right, thank you. Group 3. And if anybody has any thoughts, please jump in. But group 3, let's go with whoever's going to present the shipboard Kraken fight. This one I was really interested in because when you're like it's shipboard, so you're kind of like restricted in your movements a little bit, right? And the creature is presumably not always above the surface of the water either. So there's like some interesting challenges there. Who wants to talk for that group? Do we have a representative from group 3? Michael, if that's you, you're muted. So
Hello. This was an exercise in parallel play. I've never done something like this.
that's okay.
My colleague, kind of set out the outline, and then we independently started working on our outlines.
Yeah, no worries.
So didn't get very far, but where I ended up thinking about this is, the whole initial interaction is them fighting unsuccessfully to avoid being consumed.
Right.
And then I think of this as sort of like a whale fall, where the struggle begins. Not sort of on this ship that's powerful. It's a relic of the power of the days that are gone. And then to feel safe on this place, maybe for the first time in a while, and then everything stops. The ship is methodically destroyed by this vast beast. I'm thinking, kind of Cthulhu-ish, that just annihilates this place of power and safety, and they're consumed, and getting sucked into the maw of the beast is sort of the closing of the gates. And then the continuing journey that I'm thinking of is, proceeds from that point.
Oh, you're actually
And
in the creature.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
cool.
and then I think the resolution isn't the killing of the beast, it's escaping it, because it's this is a god that is older than the realm that is lost. It's going to be older than the realms to come, this cycle, and it's really just something you escape. It's not something that you resolve. So that's where I went with it, or
Yeah,
trying to go.
No, it's a cool idea, and because I think like when I thought of the prompt, I was thinking a lot of like, that kind of like classic, like, okay, the tentacles like are lashing the deck of the ship, and you have to like dodge the tentacles, and then maybe someone like brave in movement 3, someone bravely like runs up the tentacle to stab the thing in the eye or whatever. Like you can imagine that, and I think that would be a really good struggle. But I actually really like how you frame this too. It's this interesting idea of like there's something interesting about like being swallowed by a titanic creature. You could even see a situation where like, especially if it was more of like a kind of sentient Cthulhu like entity, you could imagine a situation where it's like you're not necessarily even like trying to like physically fight your way out, but you're also maybe trying to like endure the like psychic maelstrom of being inside this like godlike being, which I think is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's exactly how I framed it. Yeah, okay.
No,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I just think it's a cool idea. Yeah, it's really great. Do you guys have anything else to say about it, or?
I'm not sure what my partner wrote.
I
So
see. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. You
they
were
were both,
both.
they,
Okay.
they set it up.
Who was
and
your
we're both
partner?
writing.
There was a little bit miscommunication about like, oh yeah, we discussed general ideas and then we worked
Oh,
on
gotcha.
individual
Okay. Well, what did
parts.
you come up with, Chaotic?
Your idea about like the Kraken battle was like my first instinct. So like I wrote it as the last journey of the merciful void of like there is like this sort of derelict like ship that's crossing the sea and it's like on our last journey, last legs is this boat is falling apart, but the crew is ready for adventure. And paint the scene for the first movement as like there's like a storm approaching. What religious practices do the crew perform that shows that they are terrified of more than just the storm?
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. World building.
Yeah. As the ship groans, as like the storm hits, something bumps from underneath. The waves toss and turn. Narrate how you keep yourselves from being flung off the ship and roll the dark move.
So I like that a lot. It's a perfect movement 1 because we haven't even seen the Kraken yet, which is great, right? Like it's literally just this sort of like physical the sort of physicality of the ocean is what they have to survive. That's a really neat idea, and it can be as simple as like, how do you avoid falling off the ship? And then if you kind of like telegraph forward to like what it will look like when the players start doing their dark moves, you're going to have players who are like, well, I take out my weapon and I jam it into the mizzen mast in order to like hold on, or I take the rope out of my pack and I try to like loop it really quickly around the railing of the ship so I don't fall overboard. Or maybe you have like a one that's like more magical, they like float or something or whatever, right? Like you can imagine it creates a lot of space for the characters to show off, which is really great.
Yeah, and the second movement is like when the Kraken shows up in grabbing the ship and having like additional arms just like reaching out and grabbing it. It's again another like sort of area of attack where like various crew members are getting eaten by the Kraken and like you have to like stab it. However, once we reach the third movement, disaster strikes as the ship is broken in half.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, we're getting the classic Kraken fight here. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. So like you're like in the water trying to like figure out like not only like how to deal with the Kraken, but like how to deal with being in a storm without a boat.
So do you start to focus here? Because it feels like
Yeah.
we're still just like in the calamity of it. Like at some point you gotta get the
Yeah. I think like with like the sort of like the initial like calamity like focus like to the focus point is like once you're in the water you can see like the Kraken fully. You could see its like gleaming eyes like
Got it.
looking at you. And I imagine like it is like the sort of observation of the Kraken at this point is the revelation of like the sort of mythos behind the Kraken, and like having to like deal with like that, and like probably killing the Kraken at some point. I know like people are like Krakens are like impossible monsters, but like I view the embers are like a little bit of a step above like your regular adventures. You
They
know?
are indeed, and also like the whole point of it is like, well, if you found the weak point, that's the idea,
Mhm.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
Smog's exposed belly, right? Like it's that
Mhm.
it's that
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like as like a if like a like since like there's multiple results, one of the sort of like results is like by killing the Kraken, you like sort of cause the storm to like cease. Like
I like that. That's very mythic. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's good. It's very mythic. Did you write a reward as well?
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you could get from a Kraken
Yeah.
if,
Well,
if you
actually,
don't have a boat.
you know what I would do? I know you didn't have time to do this, but like what I would do is like I would have it be like, oh, you have some new move that lets you like calm the seas or
Mhm.
or manipulate weather or
Yeah.
something, right? That'd be kind of fun. Awesome, thank you. Those are both great ideas. Two different approaches for
Mhm.
sure, but conceptually really really neat. Okay, let's go to. I thought this was the hardest one. Colossal brain in jar. So, if you played Metroid, I'm thinking Mother Brain, but also this is just a sci-fi staple, and TLR has a lot of science fantasy elements. So, as it turns out, so who wants to speak for that group?
Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Perfect. I'll speak. Do you want me to just read through it? We have it written out as a sheet.
As you wish. Yeah.
Sure. I just shared it in chat. The great mind of Braidlock. Quote, I am the builder of the Tower of Endless Flame. I am the shipbuilder that traversed the boundless seas. Mine is the intellect upholding the pillars of this world. I am the bulwark that forestalls the dimming. Begin in the top of a ruined wizard's tower, cold and dark. A softly glowing terrarium squats on a table. Suspended in strange, it's supposed to be vitreous fluids, inside is a large brain. It throbs as you approach. This is the great mind of Braidlock, final accomplishment of the wizard before his death, made to stave off the dimming by collecting the assembled wisdom of the lands. It has been waiting here to be used, but there is no hand left that knows how to wield it, and it is always hungry to learn more. Paint the scene. The room is littered with wondrous machines and diagrams of strange devices to let you know the wizard was a true genius. What creations catch your attention? We were just picturing sort of like a Da Vinci type, and then the idea of like this being like a knowledge repository. Sudden electric blue fire crackles outwards in waves, catching all of the embers off guard. The great mind has awoken and begins probing your thoughts, unleashing waves of knowledge as it seeks to pull yours in and add it to its collective library. Too late, you notice the piles of old ash and bone fragments close to the table from unlucky travelers before you. To all embers, describe how you attempt to stave off the overwhelming onslaught of knowledge, the gravitational psychic pull of your knowledge being added to the minds, and roll the dark move. They're sucked inside. The blue electric fire surges back into the jar, taking the embers with it. They find themselves standing on the mosaic tiled floor of an endless library with majestic vaulted ceilings and rows upon rows of books. This is a sight the embers might remember from before the dimming, a level of grandeur and splendor now gone from this world, but there is no time to admire the architecture. The rows and shelves grow and warp to smother and crush you. Describe how you fight back to the very ground and walls and then roll the dark move. Oh, and I mess with the spacing with 2 and 3. So it's meant to be everybody is doing that while the Ember with the highest reason has to face the champion. A figure emerges from a wall of scrolls, taking shape before your very eyes. A paragon of warriors, a great fighter with arms and armor from 100 lands. You know that for every piece of it you destroy, that knowledge will be lost to time forever. You cannot hope to stand and win this fight. Describe how you use its disparate parts to turn it against itself and roll the dark move. And we're going to 2 and 3 were going to be just 2 stages of that fight, of basically the thing of being attacked by visions of warriors from every time and every practice, and knowing that as they struck them down, that was the last memory of that, now gone forever. The Embers find themselves back in the tower, a small, filthy, broken place compared to the library they were just in. They are closer than ever to the great mind, and its pulses of blue lightning weaken as it tries to hold them back. Paint the scene. Unbidden in your minds, you see great works of might and majesty that once made the lands great, raised by many hands. The minds of those who work together for a better world are here still in some way, and this is all that is left of them. Describe a titanic work that once defined this world and the dreamer who reached to build it. Any Ember may attempt to reason with the great mind, to tame it and direct it. Imagine what it could be in the right hands. Describe how you reach out to this agglomeration of minds and roll the light move. Or the Ember with the lowest reason. Everyone else seems entranced, but you don't understand why. Destroy this jar. Describe the psychic scream that echoes through all your minds as this knowledge is lost forever. They don't have to roll.
I like how the hero's the dumb one.
And we're still sort of debating this when you called us back, but I like the idea that if an Ember succeeds on the light roll and manages to calm or communicate with the mind, it can be visited in the past to learn relevant pieces of ancient lore.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's destroyed, a shrine opens the Morning Tower that you can visit to see memories of the great wizard Braidlock over time as he worked on the creation of the brain. And when that ends, you gain the aspect Sage Wisdom.
I'm very impressed you wrote all this in 40 minutes. It's very impressive. It's very good. No, I love it. That was great. I was drawn in. It's really, really good. I have almost no notes, except for it's dimming, not dimming, but that's the only thing. No, it's really, really good. What did you find were like the initial challenges when you were like thinking of Brain and Jar? I intended for it to be kind of challenging.
I think we spent the longest. So I've been doing morning pages, familiar with the Artist Way, and I've been trying to write a struggle almost every morning this week. So I've been
okay.
in the thing for it. We spent a huge amount of time before we got writing just being like, what do we do with this? I think we were hung up on the word colossal. We're trying to decide like if big meant like physically big, whose brain would it be? Why is it there?
Yeah.
Chris, if you want to chime in. Chris was the one to originally be like, oh, it's got to be a wizard. There's got to be like this is such a classic mad scientist staple. Who's the mad scientist?
Yeah. The biggest struggle was just why big brain in Jar?
Why big brain in Jar? I love it. It's good. No, I thought you guys did great. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. That was very, very interesting. And I love what everybody came up with in that rather compressed amount of time. I hope you found it helpful in terms of just like thinking about some of the structural and mechanical implications of this. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about your entries, about the lands remaining more broadly. We've only got 7 more scheduled minutes, but I'll stay as long as you have questions, so it's not a big deal. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about the contest, about struggles, about the lands remaining more broadly, I'm here to have my brain picked. So please let me know if you do.
Yeah, I have a question. I was wondering if you have some advice on like what should be me just saying like this is what it is, and like what should be delegated to paint to scenes. To give some context, my struggle kind of has 2 big ideas that I need to get across. Like the first one is there's kind of like Midas going on. Like there's a woman that's cursed and everything she like looks turns into gold. So you fall into this statue, like this garden of statues, all golden statues, and they're all gold. And like that's the first idea. So the danger is petrification, like you're gonna turn into a statue and have to stay forever.
Yeah.
But then the second idea that is sort of the pathos element of this is that I want to set up that this was once like a cathedral, a place of worship, but now it's a prison. And the
Mm,
last bit is going to end with how could you tell that she could have left, but she like
mm,
voluntarily locked herself in because she knew
mhm,
she could only cause harm. So
mhm.
it's kind of this like you've been fighting her like this big scary hubris monster, but you realize like she doesn't want you to be here. Like she's been trying to hide from the world. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what elements here? Because like there's one part of me that's like, oh, you gotta do how can you tell the statues are still living as a
Yeah,
paint to
yeah, okay,
scene?
okay, sure,
But
yeah.
then the other part of me is like, that feels like everyone's already assuming that's true. So
So just
maybe
say
the
it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so just say it and
yeah,
have it be like
yeah.
the actual twist is that this is a prison.
I mean, I think that,
Like,
I mean, I think you've just answered it. I mean, like, it's really just going to depend on what you want to focus on in terms of
mhm,
broadly speaking, I think I think this is true of everything in the lands remaining, and it's also true for struggles, is I think you do yourself a service in your writing if you, and this is true of all CFB writing now that I think about it, if you like, if you give us the what, but let the why or the how be the domain of the players, right? I think that's the key, right? Like show me what, but the why or the how, you don't have to say that necessarily. That's what paint the scene is for. Sometimes it just exists in mystery. You don't always, not everything has to be explained, right? But I think you've kind of answered your own question because like really truly like okay, maybe the horror of like the statues are actually people is what you want to explore, and that could be really fun. Like, oh, I see that one of the statues is like weeping tears, or one of the or like one of the statues didn't completely transform and they're like muttering kill me. Like there's all kinds of like like ways you could do it, right? But the players will kind of like give you that if that's what you want to explore. But if you think that it's like almost like a foregone conclusion or a given, like you just state it, describe those things that I've just said, and then you get to something different. Like, how can you tell that? How can you tell that they wanted to be here? How can you tell that they chose to come and have this done to them? You just it just depends on like what thematically you're interested in, I suppose. Um, but broadly speaking, I think it's okay to leave a lot of mystery in the writing and let the players and keeper fill that in if they wish. You can never go wrong by just focusing on the visuals and the visuals and other like kind of immediate sensory descriptions. Yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but that I think you basically got to the right answer. Like, so. Um, any other questions for me?
uh, uh, is there anything defined on like simulacrum within the world that I would need to worry about?
Simulacrum, like doppelganger type creatures?
Like how in Elden Ring, like
No.
there is like at the academy, like there's this lady who keeps on giving birth to like scholars and whatnot.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nalok, yeah. Yeah.
like I'm like I sort of created like the sort of like a scene like that, but in a more naturalistic sense
Yeah, yeah,
of just like a bunch of monsters found in a magic item, and they're
yeah.
like, oh, we can't have like children, so we're going to use this magic item to create lots of children.
That's great. Yeah. It's very Elden
Yes,
Ring. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just like, uh, so like the sort of struggle is like getting hold of like this magic item and like actually destroying like all of these like monsters.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I know like in lore of it, like
There are no
uh
children.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah, yeah,
children.
yeah. That's there. Let's say there are no natural children.
Yeah.
So anything that like does create children in quotes that probably we're putting here, that
Hmm.
is why it stands out in the world, precisely
Hmm.
because there are children, right? Because there
Yeah.
are generally speaking not children in the world. And the children that remain from the time of the old fire, they are all like they're all like weird prophets and seers and stuff. And so, but generally speaking, people don't have children. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They there's a lot of like there's some unanswered questions in the setting intentionally. Like, do people eat? Do they sleep? How come some people just stayed alive? How come some people died and came back? Like there's it's all a little vague intentionally. So yeah, I think you're fine. Yeah, I wouldn't worry
Okay.
about that. It's the natural childbirth part that
Okay.
that's the not happening anymore in the world. Yeah, Jazzy.
You said earlier that if you write a reward, like it does need to be like fully complete. Does that mean if you get a supplicant, you need to give like the four
You do the
prompts and
whole going
everything?
if you've got
Okay,
space in your word
okay,
count. Yeah, if you have the word
okay.
count for it. Yeah, I would not like. I mean, I guess like if you don't have the word count, you could be like, you could kind of say what the person does and then just put a little note that like, could not write out the whole supplicant because
Right.
of word count
But generally
restriction.
speaking, like
This
is
is
the
what it
vibe
would be.
and
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fine too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Fantastic. But if you have the word count, like, sure, do the whole supplicant. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Items are a little bit easier than supplicants. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's
Word count wise, they're a lot. It's easier to do an item.
Yeah, there was like a small part of my brain that's like, ooh, what if you keep the golden woman? But then
Yeah,
I was also almost
yeah,
immediately like, no, that the
yeah,
whole point is
yeah.
that you can't because people will keep turning themselves into gold.
All the
So
nuns are just
don't.
gold nuns everywhere.
Just gold.
Awesome. Rylan, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Have you read any of the Hollows by Rowan Rook and Deckard, their new game?
I'm not. No,
It's interesting. They're also doing Elden Ring boss combat.
I
It's
knew
like
that.
focus
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it. It's interesting because it's very tactical.
yeah.
So it's interesting because it's so different, but is also grappling with like how to imaginatively convey the story concepts. So
Mhm.
it's cool to bounce back and forth. It just has been informing.
Yeah, yeah. I discarded the even the possibility of it being a tactical exercise. It's just not Carl from Brindlewood. It just doesn't.
100%.
It just doesn't
I thought
fit.
I guess what I'm saying is it's fun to read because it's so different. It's just like the same
To
box.
compare, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I looked at a few things. I didn't look at the hollows, but I looked at a few things just to be like, what's out there, because I was trying to come up with my own ideas, and what I landed on was no one was doing what I wanted. Like I was like, this is not at all what I'm aiming for. So, but yeah, no, but everybody has their own fun in their own way, I suppose. Any other questions for me? Go ahead, Jerome. I cannot hear you.
That's that. Can you hear me now?
I can.
It's more about the structure of the movements. I was just wondering. I already wrote my pitch struggle. I haven't submitted it, but I ended my third movement with the paint the scene, the lead
Mhm.
into the fourth movement, like the
Mhm.
whole like go back in the past and see the
Yeah,
dark.
yeah. The sad
Is that
part.
is that
Yeah.
something that I should maybe correct and move my paint the scene to the
I
fourth?
think it's probably fine. I
Or
think
is
it's
it
probably
okay?
fine. Yeah, I think it's probably fine. I mean, you must have had some reason for doing that.
Yeah, it felt like it landed better. Like
That's fine.
there's a
Yeah,
discovery in the
yeah.
third movement, and then
No, I
it
think
just
that's
felt
great.
like having the paint the scene then. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
no, I think it's
Just
great.
wanted to know.
Yeah, you can never have too many paint the scenes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, like all of mine only have one in the first and fourth movement, but they don't have to. You can put them. You can do as many as you want. It's a great. We actually discovered something really fun that I hadn't really anticipated, but it was a happy accident or a happy thing. We did a struggle against the putrescent queen yesterday, where only two of the embers did it, and the other two embers were off doing something else. And what ended up being really good about that is it actually ends up having this nice like self-balancing aspect to it, where the two players who are not doing the struggle don't have to wait around as long because there's only two embers doing the struggle. so it actually kind of has this nice like kind of balancing in that way. But the two embers not doing the struggle, those players still get to participate because of the paint the scene questions. They still
Right.
get to be involved, right? So it actually has this nice like there's this like nice thing that kind of goes on there. Paint the scene questions help keep everyone involved always. And so even when you get to like those like third or fourth movements where it's just one ember rolling dice often, the paint the scene questions help keep everyone engaged. So yeah, you can never have too many of them in my opinion. I only write 2 of them into mine just because I like I have like a certain like kind of pace that I like mine to have, but I think it's okay to have more. So yeah. And I'm not super pressed on like where they're at. Although I do think that first movement, I really think contestants are wise to follow the structure of the first movement really closely, because that feels like the most like set in stone part of all this to me. So okay, fantastic. Any other questions or thoughts for me?
I think this is the first time that I realized there isn't a paint to scene in all of them because I'm pretty sure that I've been just in every struggle that I write, I've been putting a paint to scene in all of them.
Yeah, no, the ones I wrote, they just have it in the first movement and the fourth movement, but that's not like a rule or anything. You could put more in. It's fine.
Yeah. Taking a look at my struggle, I'm thinking about moving my fourth movement, paint the scene, to my third movement because it seems to like flow a little bit better of just like this discovery of just like, oh, this is not natural. We should do something about this.
No, there's you'll kind of get I mean, and also like you won't really know until you do like play testing, I guess. But honestly, I don't know. Like I've run so many of these now, a bunch of different ones, all with like slightly different things that happen in the different movements, and it's always fun. It's always really fun and really exciting, and I don't think there's really any messing it up. I think like I think the main thing you have to kind of like gauge is how many die rolls are you doing. If you're going to do more than like 6 total die rolls, that there needs to be a really big reason for that. And maybe think about ways you can keep the mechanical stakes high without doing more die rolls. Like the group that did the like mark an old fire mark, like that's a great way of like keeping the stakes high without having to like add dice overhang to it, right? I think the Tristel struggle, and also I think the Sun Mask struggle too, has a you have to mark a cinder. You're gonna mark a cinder to like accomplish that layer, right? So like there's different ways you can do like keep the stakes really high mechanically, while without it just necessarily being another dark or light move, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. But I still think that like even if you have as many as like 6 dark or light moves throughout the whole thing, that's fine. Like that's not like too much, right? So yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Thank you all for coming to the workshop. I hope it was helpful. I'm going to wave goodbye to folks watching.